Never say it like that. 1, don't say sorry to bother you. Say, I have a question for you. Could you spare me a couple of minutes? 2, don't say goodbye, say see you. 3, don't say I like it, say it's pleasant. 4, don't say tell me, say
Yes, prayer is a present state of gratitude, not a request for something you don't have. It's a recognition of what you do have. When you get into trouble, call AAA. And AAA stands for acknowledge what you have, not what you don't have, right? Appreciate what you have and allow what needs to come next. And that's a simple way to stay in a state of appreciation and gratitude. Acknowledge what you have, not what you don't have. Appreciate what you have fully and allow the next thing to come that needs to be there. Many people start griping about what they don't have. That's what fixes them in a state of not having. So what are you going to get? You're going to get an experience of not having. Don't look where you don't want to go. Otherwise, your body goes there. You're steering it, you know? So don't look where you don't want to go. Stay where you prefer to be. Positive energy is integrative, connective, and expansive. So of course it's an amplification. That's the nature of positive energy. It magnifies, it amplifies, it expands, it connects, it grows.
However, the key to getting rid of negative emotions, and this is the most important part of this, is the trunk. It's cutting down the trunk of the negative emotion tree. And the trunk of the negative emotion tree is blame. Blame is 99% of negative emotions. Now, it's very important to understand where negative emotions come from. Negative emotions come from inside you. Negative emotions are not contained in external situations. Negative emotions are not caused by other people or other situations. Negative emotions are caused by your response to other situations. Perfect example. 2 people meet the same situation, a traffic jam, a rude waiter, whatever it happens to be, and one person gets all upset and uptight and angry, the other person lets it go off their back. Another example. The same person, 2 different days. One day they've had an argument or a flat tire or they're late for work, they get into a traffic jam and they're angry and they're uptight. The next day, they leave with plenty of time, they had a lovely breakfast with their family, they got lots of time to get to work, they have a traffic jam, it doesn't bother them at all. In both cases, it's an example of that the negative emotion does not come from the situation. Is that you are always free to choose the quality of your emotional life.
If you know for a fact who you are, you know your name's Jessica, right? Say, I'm like, I hate your name, Tom. Tom's such a disgusting name. Are you offended, Tom? No, because you know your name's Jessica. I hate your blue hair. Everyone say, I hate your blue hair. Say it, blue hair! Are you offended?
No.
Because you don't have blue hair. Say everyone were to say, stupid. Would you be offended?
Yes.
In that case, why does a part of you think you're stupid? If you knew for a fact you're not stupid, it'd be the same as blue hair. When did you start thinking you're stupid? Or a part of you start thinking that? Open yourself up to it.
Addiction comes from having belief systems within you, negative belief systems that say that there is something missing from you. But you may not have been taught how to fulfill that. You may not have the tools or the awareness or the knowledge to know how that's done by connecting to Source and knowing that you are already self-empowered. So if someone feels that emptiness, that they feel or believe that something is missing within them, they will often, of course, do everything they can in an attempt to fill that void, that emptiness that they feel. But if they cannot do it, they will get to a point where they will start being afraid to even acknowledge that that emptiness is there. They will want to start glossing it over. They will want to start denying that it's there. They will be afraid to look at it. Yet their behavior will still do everything it can in an attempt to fill that void. But they will then only be using things not so much to fill it, but to numb the awareness that it exists. And that's where addiction comes from. It is the attempt to forget and to numb your awareness to the fact that you have a belief that you are not complete as you are.
What would happen if somebody dropped sugar in my coffee? They said, well, you'd be okay. I said, what if somebody dropped strychnine in my coffee? They said, well, you'd be dead. I said, correct. I said, what if my worst enemy drops in the sugar? They said, will you be okay? I said, what if my best friend, even by accident, drops in the strychnine? They said, well, you'd be dead. I said, correct. See, it doesn't matter who hands you the bad stuff. Every day, stand guard at the door of your mind. How important. You decide what goes into your mental factory. Don't let anybody just dump anything they want to in your mental factory, because you've got to live with the results.
Every single person that you interact with is you. Now let me explain what I mean by that. So whether this is your best friend, your partner, a coworker, a client, or your boss, they're you. Now I'm going to tell you that. So let's say that you've attracted in a partner that loves drinking alcohol. They're an alcoholic. What is alcoholic? This is negative. And you see yourself as extremely positive. There's most likely something underlying that you aren't conscious of. Otherwise, you would not have attracted this person into your life. Because like attracts like. You both have fears in your life. You both have repressed emotions in your life. And that doesn't mean that they're identical, but they're the same frequency. And you can break up with this person. You can go find another guy. Go ahead and find another person. It's going to be the exact same energy. It's just going to be a different 3D. We fall in love with Tim. Tim is most likely going to have the same frequency if you didn't heal this within you. Heal what this person was trying to show you, what this person was trying to teach you. They showed you that they had this trauma. Then you're like, well, I actually have a trauma too. I'm going to heal it. I'm going to love myself. Then Andrew comes in, and Andrew has also done the work. Heal attracts heal. Abundance attracts abundance. When you understand the law, you can then use it to your advantage and better your life.
Remember, the belief that you need protection invites the attack.
Right, right.
Don't fear the idea and run away from it. Prefer another idea and run toward it. You know the difference? Because if you fear an idea and try to run away from it, you will never escape it. Because your fear anchors you to it, because it's that vibration. The only way to let that go is to focus in a completely different reality with a completely different vibration, wherein that's simply not a consideration, simply because you don't need it to be. Remember, as we have reminded many of you, your own Einstein said you cannot solve a problem from the same level in which the problem was created. You have to go to another level. So the idea is don't run away from fear, but run towards, enjoy, and the idea of what is not you will simply not be an issue. Make sense?
Yes.
Your thoughts produce a chemical reaction in your brain. That chemical reaction becomes a feeling. So if you think the world is falling apart, the world is going to hell, I'm stuck, I'm done, there's no way I'm going to make it out of this. When you think those things, you begin to feel anxious feelings. You begin to feel depressed feelings. That's why the Bible says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything with prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, shall guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus as you think on these things, whatever is good, whatever is lovely. And the more positive feelings you create, the more you start thinking about the good things. Once you understand this, it sets you free, and now you start living your victory.
And when people say, how are things going? You say, wonderful. You say, how's life? You say, terrific. You say, how's your relationships? Couldn't be better. How is your health? How are you feeling? I feel great. In other words, don't talk about negative things, because when you talk about negative things, you actually increase them and you draw more of them into your life. Look at the people that you know who have problems. You notice the people that you know have problems all the time, never seem to solve their problems, are people who talk about their problems all the time. To him that hath shall more be given, from him who hath not even that which he has shall be taken away. Each of us has a certain amount of suffering that we've gone through, and people fall in love with their suffering. People love their suffering. As a matter of fact, they feel that they've paid for it, they've thought about it, they've lived with it for so long that most people are very reluctant to give up their suffering. You can't talk them out of it. You say, well, why don't you just forget it? Why don't you just put it behind you? Why don't you just get on with it? They say, well, I can't do that. Do you know how much I've suffered? Do you know how much emotional investment I put into this relationship, this job, this career, and so on? It's when somebody comes up to you and wants to talk to you about their problems. You say yes, and you be sympathetic and empathetic. It's very good to hear people and let them talk out their problems. And they'll lay out all their problems to you, and all you say to them is this. You say, well, what do you think you should do about it?
Guys, you can save yourself a lot of therapy, and I mean a lot of therapy, if you just learn this simple trick when it comes to relationships. Only like people who like you. It's that easy. If you simply select people who like you, who want to be with you, life is really easy. But when you select people who don't really want to be with you, you will spend your life begging for bare minimum.
Say that with me one more time. Never under any circumstances can you ever go weak for a woman's beauty. The second you go weak for her appearance, the second you go weak for her beauty, the second you go weak for her soft feminine touch or her voice, her vocal tone, you get attached to those personality traits, you get attached to that feminine touch, this is when she exits. And it's not her fault. Her biology closes off to you. Her biology is saying, you know what, this guy cares so much about you. Look at him change his decision-making process. Look at him bend and break his principles that he once had. Look at him change his work environment and his work structure and his times that he does things throughout the day just to suit you. Look at this guy operate out of a different wavelength that he was prior. Now she's going to sense weakness. She's going to sense that you're changing for her, and now she's going to exit. You can never do this.
Today in our society, your ability to get along with other people, your social intelligence, is the most valuable, most precious single asset that you have. Not only in terms of your career, not only in terms of your marriage and your relationships, but in terms of your own mental well-being. 85% of everything that you ever accomplish in life will be as a direct result of how well you get along with other people. That today, even the biggest companies in America are hiring on the basis of personality and attitude rather than on the basis of grades, proficiency, skills, and experience. Why? It's because if the person has the right personality skills, they can learn anything else they need in order to be successful. But if the person has all the skills in the world and a lousy personality, there's no way that they can take the responsibility of changing it. 85% of our happiness in life, according to the research, comes from happy involvement with other people. Also, 85% of all of our problems in life come from unhappy involvement with other people. So it is possible for us to get a certain amount of satisfaction in life from achievement, from success, from making money, building businesses and careers and so on, but most of our happiness is going to come from our relationships.
The next law is what is called the law of expectations. Now, the law of expectations is the law that has been talked about throughout all of human history. Just like in the law of belief, William James of Harvard said, belief creates the actual fact. As a man thinketh in his heart, or as he believeth, so is he. The law of expectations, over and over, says what you expect, you get. You get not what you want, but what you expect. That your expectations, especially your expectations about outcomes, how you think things are going to turn out, become your own self-fulfilling prophecies. And Dr. Robert Rosenthal of Harvard University has done something like 300 experiments on expectations theory, on what is called experimenter theory, and he finds that your expectations have an effect on other people and events and circumstances, even if your expectations are based on totally false information. Whatever you expect with confidence. In other words, if you confidently expect good things to happen, surprise, surprise, good things happen to you. If you confidently expect negative things to happen, then negative things are going to happen to you. That most successful people have developed an attitude of confidently expecting good things to happen. It's called the attitude of positive self-expectancy. It is the attitude of the winner. The winner looks for good things to happen. The winner expects to win in advance, and lo and behold, whatever you expect with confidence tends to come true, even if the information upon which your expectations is based is totally false. Here, let me give you an example of expectations. Some years ago, Dr. Rosenthal, after conducting a variety of different experiments, came to the conclusion that the expectations that teachers had of students was having a tremendous effect on their ability to learn and their grade level averages. So he put together a series of experiments, and then one major experiment, which was tremendous. He went to the San Francisco Bay Area, and at the beginning of the school year, he had the principal call in 3 teachers. The 3 teachers were told that by the principal, as a result of teaching excellence, they had been singled out as the 3 best teachers in the school, and that they were going to be given 30 students each of the brightest students in the school identified by IQ tests at the end of the last semester. They would be able to teach these students for the entire year, and it was estimated by experts that these students would jump in scholastic achievement an average of 20 to 30% over the course of that school year. Now, the teachers were told that one of the conditions was that they mustn't tell the teachers, they mustn't tell the students, and they mustn't tell their parents. They must continue to teach the same way, and classes were carefully monitored to make sure that they taught the same way they taught before, but only they would know that they had been given 30 bright students each to teach for the whole year. The teachers were delighted. The teachers went out. They were excited about this. They worked hard with those students. They spent time after school with them. They got really, really involved in teaching more than they ever had before. And at the end of the school year, lo and behold, those 3 classes led not only the school, but the entire school district in academic accomplishment. At the end of the year, they called the 3 teachers in. They sat them down and they said, well, you've had a good year. And they said, yes, well, it was great. Those kids were so bright. They were so eager to learn. They said, well, maybe we should tell you the truth, that this was an experiment. And the fact is that the beginning of the school year, we selected the names of 90 children by lottery from the school population at large and assigned them to your class. We didn't even know what their IQs were. They said, well, that's remarkable. Well, how could it have happened that they did so well? And then they looked at each other and said, well, of course, it's because we are the 3 most excellent teachers in this school. They said, well, the other side of it was simply this, is at the beginning of the school year, we put all the teachers' names in a hat, and yours were the first 3 names that were drawn. So this is what is called a double-blind experiment. They held constant for everything but expectations. Now, the expectations on the teachers were explicit. We believe that you are excellent teachers. The expectations of the teachers on the students were implicit. They were never spoken. The teachers just treated those students as though they were really intelligent, and the students bloomed and blossomed. And in one of the classes, a student from beginning of the year to the end of the year jumped 25 IQ points. In a subsequent experiment, a student jumped as much as 27 IQ points, which is to prove that high expectations teachers bring out intelligence in students that is completely unheard of. Marva Collins, the famous teacher in the Chicago inner city, has found that if you treat students as though they're intelligent and talk to them and work with them as though they are really bright, they will absolutely astonish you in terms of academic accomplishment. All right, this brings us to the critical role of expectations in your life. First part of expectations in your life, number 1, and where expectations affect you. Expectations of your parents. We have found that we have a tendency as adults to try to live up to or down to the expectation of our parents all our lives. If our parents were strong and supportive and loving and kind and encouraging and really believed in us, all our lives we'll strive unconsciously to live a life consistent with those expectations. If our parents were critical and condemnatory and bitched and complained and griped about our grades and so on and so forth, we will find that all of our life we'll have a tendency to hold ourselves back. So be alert to that. What were the expectations of your parents? Were they positive? Were they negative? Were they boosting or were they discouraging? And how much are they affecting you today? Second area of expectations is the expectations of your boss. In all of our studies, we have found, especially in the studies on excellence in organizations, we have found that high expectations, bosses have high performance work environments. Now, if you work for a boss who's negative, critical, and condemnatory, if you work for a boss that has negative expectations or a negative attitude, chances are your performance will be at the very lowest. As a matter of fact, if you look at the course of your working career, you'll find that the times of your life that you've enjoyed the most is working under a boss that has high positive expectations of you and your ability. Isn't that correct? The third area of expectations is the expectations you have of others, especially of your children, especially of your spouse or your mate, especially of your subordinates or the people who look up to you. You see, we are profoundly affected by the opinions of anybody we respect, by the attitudes toward us of anybody we respect. And if you have high positive expectations of the people around you, especially your children, they will rise to fulfill those expectations. So the basic rule with regard to this is always expect good things of other people. In word and deed, tell them continually, I believe in you.
The more you like yourself, the more you like others. The more responsibility you accept, the better you get along with them. The more you freely forgive and forget and refuse to hold grudges, the more it improves the quality of your relationships. The more you look for the good in people and situations, the better you get along with yourself and them. And the better you get along with other people, surprise, surprise, the more you like yourself. Everybody wants to have a more healthy personality. So let's look at how you measure healthy personality. How much you like yourself is the core of your personality. People who like themselves a lot have very healthy personalities. Number two, measure of healthy personality is how much responsibility you accept. People who accept a lot of responsibility for themselves, who look upon themselves as being the key agents in their lives, people who refuse to blame other people, have very healthy personalities. Another example of healthy personality is how easily you forgive. One of the things we know is there's a direct relationship, one-to-one relationship, between how freely you forgive and forget when somebody hurts you and how healthy your personality is. Number four measure of healthy personality is what is called positive expectations. The degree to which you look for the good in everything and everybody around you. People who have a propensity to look for the good are truly healthy people. The fifth measure of healthy personality is what we're talking about today, is how well you get along with others. How well you get along with others. As a matter of fact, you really cannot have a healthy personality in isolation of your relationships with other human beings. Remember, it is destructive criticism in childhood that sets us up for fears of failure, fears of rejection, feelings of inferiority, inadequacy, undeservingness, guilt, and everything else. And most of us are still struggling to get over those feelings because of the inadvertent remarks and comments that our parents made to us when we were young. Make them feel important, and surprisingly enough, you will feel important too. The reciprocal principle works. Now, how do we make others feel important? Number one, top of the list, is eliminate destructive criticism. Eliminate destructive criticism. There is nothing that causes a person's self-esteem to go down faster than destructive criticism. So eliminate destructive criticism. Never criticize anybody because it devalues them. It kicks the chair out from underneath their self-esteem and makes them feel terrible. Just doing that, making that one change in your life, eliminating destructive criticism, will make you a far more attractive person than you can possibly imagine if you have a tendency toward criticism.
You literally cannot fuck up anything that is meant for you. You cannot. Now, when you think that things are not going the way that you want them to go, it is you that is making yourself anxious. Life is always happening for you. No matter how far it feels like you're falling, there's always a safety net for you. And there always has been. And when you truly understand how life is working for you, you will realize what is meant for you will never pass you by. So it's literally impossible to fuck up anything that is for you.
So one of the core secrets of success is this, is become a perpetual self-esteem generating organism. Continually be doing things for yourself, to yourself, in your life that cause you to like yourself, to love yourself, to accept yourself, to respect yourself, that cause you to feel terrific about yourself. If you're a boss or a parent, remember that the key to peak performance in your home and in your workplace is to make people feel terrific about themselves. And the more terrific you feel about yourself, the more you like yourself, the more likely it is that you'll make the people around you like, love, accept, and respect themselves, and you'll create a peak performance environment. In order to unlock your full potential, it's absolutely essential that you understand the relationship between the conscious and the subconscious mind. There are thousands of books have been written on this subject. There's tremendous complexities. There's references to the conscious and the subconscious, especially the subconscious, throughout all of human history. The subconscious is often called the powerhouse of your being. Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Drive that. Impress that into your mind. W. Clement Stone built $1 billion fortune by rehearsing and then getting everybody in his company to say 50 times every morning, do it now. Overcome procrastination. It's not the thief of time, it's the thief of life. The way that you overcome procrastination is by using affirmations. And the most powerful affirmation of all is do it now. Do it now. When I first learned this simple technique, I used to find myself procrastinating just like we all do. But the more I repeated this, do it now, 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 the more you repeat it, the more you find that eventually it works automatically. And it has a tendency to drive you to start a task when your natural tendency is to put it off or procrastinate. The most important quality that you can develop with regard to this is what is called a sense of urgency. Get on with it and you do the job fast. Time is your most precious resource. Time is the scarcest and most precious resource of accomplishment in our civilization. And that people who have a sense of urgency are always the most valued people in our society.
I have 3 friends. All 3 of them had stage 4 cancer. All 3 of them don't have cancer right now at all. And they had some serious stuff going on.
And what did they take?
Jesus. They took some, what you've heard they've taken.
Ivermectin,
Fenbendazole.
Fenbendazole, yeah.
That stuff.
Yeah, I'm hearing that a lot.
They drank hydrochloride something or other.
There's studies on that now where people have proven that
people
they've
are drinking methylene blue and stuff like that.
Yeah, methylene blue, which was a fabric dye.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a textile dye. And now they find out it has profound effects on your mitochondria.
Yep.
Yeah.
This stuff works, man.
There's a lot of stuff that does work, which is very strange because, again, it's profit. When you hear about things that are demonized and that turn out to be effective, you always wonder, well, what is going on here? How is our medical institutions, how have they failed us so that things that do cure you are not promoted because they're not profitable? That they can't control it. They don't have a patent on it, whether it's vitamin D, K2, and magnesium, you know.
Well, yeah, I'm doing
zinc
all
and
that,
quercetin.
I do all that stuff.
I do all that.
So one of the core secrets of success is this. It's become a perpetual self-esteem generating organism. Continually be doing things for yourself, to yourself, in your life that cause you to like yourself, to love yourself, to accept yourself, to respect yourself, that cause you to feel terrific about yourself. If you're a boss or a parent, remember that the key to peak performance in your home and in your workplace is to make people feel terrific about themselves. And the more terrific you feel about yourself, the more you like yourself, the more likely it is that you'll make the people around you like, love, accept, and respect themselves, and you'll create a peak performance environment. In order to unlock your full potential, it's absolutely essential that you understand the relationship between the conscious and the subconscious mind. There are thousands of books have been written on this subject. There's tremendous complexities. There's references to the conscious and the subconscious, especially the subconscious, throughout all of human history. The subconscious is often called the powerhouse of your being. Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Drive that, impress that into your mind. W. Clement Stone built $1 billion fortune by rehearsing and then getting everybody in his company to say 50 times every morning, do it now. Overcome procrastination. It's not the thief of time, it's the thief of life. The way that you overcome procrastination is by using affirmations. And the most powerful affirmation of all is do it now. Do it now. When I first learned this simple technique, I used to find myself procrastinating just like we all do. But the more I repeated this, do it now, 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 the more you repeat it, the more you find that eventually it works automatically. And it has a tendency to drive you to start a task when your natural tendency is to put it off or procrastinate. The most important quality that you can develop with regard to this is what is called a sense of urgency. Get on with it and you do the job fast. Time is your most precious resource. Time is the scarcest and most precious resource of accomplishment in our civilization. And that people who have a sense of urgency are always the most valued people in our society.
Emotions don't happen in a vacuum. Acknowledge them, absolutely. Own them, absolutely. Don't deny them, don't ignore them. You have to acknowledge them because you can't change what you don't own. But the idea is to get in touch with them as reflections of what you believe to be true, so you can trace whatever emotions you're having back to the belief that must exist in order to have generated those emotions. Because the belief comes first and the emotions come second. Emotions don't exist without you believing something to be true first. If you don't have a definition, you don't know how to feel about something. So if you have a feeling, and it is a feeling that you don't necessarily prefer to have, or an emotional reaction you don't prefer to have, you can use it in a positive way by asking yourself, what would I have to believe is true about myself in this circumstance in order to have reacted the way I did, in order to feel the way I do? And then you can get in touch with that belief, and if it doesn't work for you, let it go, which will then mitigate you having to express emotions in that way. If you still express the same negative emotion in that sense, then you haven't really found the belief that's generating it. Keep digging.
And it can also be exciting to cry and be angry.
It can.
Yeah.
And it can be part of your process, and that's fine. But you have to be honest within your discernment of yourself as to whether that's true, and you're willing to go through the process of evolving, or whether you're just holding on to those things because it feels safer than the alternative. Because you have labeled your excitement as something more dangerous and more scary than simply staying where you feel comfortable because it's familiar. So you have to have honest discernment within yourself about what's actually happening when you experience those things. So use them in all the positive ways you can, but recognize when you may be holding on to things you don't actually need anymore. Yes? Does that help?
That helps.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You have no idea right now how much time and energy is being wasted or drained because of other people's behavior or your expectations about how you wish things would go. And once you start noticing all of these little moments all day long, it's like a death by 1,000 cuts. You want to know why you're too tired? You want to know why you're overwhelmed? You want to know why you're stressed out? You want to know why you have no time for yourself? It's because of the power you give to other people's opinions, their emotions, their immature behavior. It's the ways in which you are turning people into a problem in your life. And here's the sad fact. The sad fact is other people should be the greatest source of happiness and connection and inspiration. But if you don't truly learn of focusing on what you can control and letting people be who they are, letting things play out as they're playing out, and then bringing the power back in-house and really focusing on how you respond to it, you're going to be shocked by how much time you've wasted. You're going to be shocked by the fact that you've allowed stupid things and people's drama to drain you.
If you could train your brain to think ahead of your environment, to imagine a future that hasn't happened yet, and make it so real in your mind that your body begins to respond to it as if it's already real, how much power would you have to change your life? Let me tell you something. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a real-life event and what you're vividly imagining. And that one simple truth can transform your life. Today, I want to teach you how to trick your brain into creating a future of unlimited success. Let's start with something most people understand: repetition. Think about a musician learning a new piece of music, or an athlete practicing a skill. What do? They repeat it over and over. That repetition wires circuits in the brain. Over time, it becomes easier, more natural, more automatic. This is what we call physical rehearsal. The beauty of physical rehearsal is that it transforms the unfamiliar into the familiar. When you pick up a guitar for the first time, it feels awkward. Your fingers don't know where to go. But after weeks, months, or years of practice, you don't even have to think about it. Your hands instinctively know the notes. This is how the brain works. It thrives on repetition. But here's the thing. Physical practice alone isn't enough to reach extraordinary levels of success. It's the first step. But what separates the good from the great, the average from the exceptional, is something far more powerful: mental rehearsal. The greatest athletes, musicians, actors, they don't just practice physically. They also practice mentally. Before they ever step onto the field, the stage, or the court, they sit down and rehearse the act in their mind. They imagine every move, every note, every step in vivid detail. Why? Because science tells us that when you mentally rehearse an action, your brain can't tell the difference between what's happening in the real world and what you're vividly imagining. To the brain, both are the same. When you rehearse, you're installing neurological hardware. It's like planting seeds in a garden. The more you rehearse, the stronger those circuits become, and your brain begins to think, I've already done this before. So when the moment comes to perform, it feels natural, effortless, automatic. This is why mental rehearsal is the champion's secret. It's not just about the body, it's about the mind. It's about creating a blueprint for success before you even take the first physical step. Most people use their brain like a record of the past. They replay old memories, relive old emotions, and reinforce the same patterns. Think about it. How often do you find yourself dwelling on a mistake you made or an opportunity you missed? How often do you let the emotions of the past dictate your actions in the present? But what if I told you your brain could become a map to the future? That instead of being stuck in the past, you could train your brain to anticipate a better tomorrow? When you mentally rehearse your goals and dreams, you're training your brain to believe it's already experienced them. You're no longer just reacting to the environment. You're creating a new one. Your brain begins to predict and prepare for that reality. And when you show up in your life, everything feels aligned, as if the universe is conspiring to help you. This isn't magic. It's neuroscience. Let's dive deeper into the science. Here's what happens when you visualize your future in detail. 1. Neurons fire together. Your brain begins to activate the same neural circuits as if you were physically doing the action. 2. Neural connections strengthen. With repetition, these connections become stronger, making the behavior more automatic. 3. The brain believes it's real. You're laying down the hardware to match that future reality. So when you take action, your brain already has the roadmap. You've primed yourself for success. This is why visualization works. It's not just wishful thinking. It's a powerful tool to rewire your brain. But there's one more thing. It's not enough to just think about your future. You have to feel it. Why? Because emotions are the language of the body. When you feel inspired, grateful, or joyful as you rehearse your future, your body begins to align with that vision. You're conditioning yourself emotionally to believe in that reality. Think of it this way. If your thoughts are the blueprint, your emotions are the energy that brings it to life. This is why gratitude is so powerful. When you feel grateful for something you haven't yet experienced, you're signaling to your body that it's already happened, and the body responds. So, how do you do this? Here's a step-by-step process. 1. Set a clear intention. Decide what you want to achieve. Be specific. Write it down if you need to. 2. Visualize in detail. Close your eyes and imagine yourself achieving that goal. What do you see, hear, smell? 3. Engage emotionally. Feel the excitement, the pride, the gratitude as if it's already happened. 4. Rehearse daily. Spend 10 to 15 minutes each day mentally rehearsing. Consistency is key. Remember, repetition creates mastery. The more you practice, the more real it becomes. And don't just go through the motions. Make it real in your mind. Make it vivid. Your brain will do the rest. When you combine clear intention with elevated emotion, and you practice it daily, you're no longer living by default. You're designing your destiny. You're training your brain to look ahead, to anticipate success, and to make decisions that align with that vision. You're no longer just a victim of your environment. You're the creator of your reality. So, what's stopping you? Your brain is the most powerful tool you have. Start using it to create the life you've always dreamed of. Trick your brain into success and watch your world transform. If you're ready to unlock your true potential, don't wait, start today. Every great journey begins with a single step. The first step might seem challenging, but it's the most important one you can take. Now that you've learned the principles of mind mastery, it's time to put them into action. You can't just learn these concepts, you must live them, breathe them, and apply them to every area of your life. Imagine what's possible when you fully commit to mastering your mind. Visualize the life you want to create and begin making decisions from that place of clarity and intention. As you start to shift your thoughts and actions in alignment with your goals, you'll notice that the world around you begins to reflect that inner change. You have the ability to transform your life on a deeper level than you may have realized. Every thought, emotion, and belief you hold has the power to create your reality. By consciously choosing thoughts that support your goals and taking inspired actions toward them, you're rewiring your brain and setting yourself on a new path. It's not always easy, but the more you practice, the more effortless it becomes. Over time, you'll find that your mind is no longer your obstacle, it's your greatest ally. You're not alone on this path. Many have walked it before you, people who've overcome obstacles, rewritten their stories, and built extraordinary lives. They were once in your shoes, unsure if change was possible, but they persevered. They believed in their ability to create something greater, and they took the steps necessary to make their vision a reality. They've shown it's possible, and now it's your turn. Their journeys weren't without challenges, but they didn't let those challenges define them. Instead, they saw each obstacle as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to push beyond their comfort zones. The key to their success was their unwavering belief in themselves and their vision for the future. They chose to let go of past limitations and embraced the possibility of something better. They trusted the process, took inspired action, and stayed committed to their growth. You too can do the same. The future you desire is waiting for you, but it requires that you show up, take consistent action, and trust that you have the power to create it.
Four pieces of advice that changed my mentality. 1, stop being afraid to spend money. You spend 0 to travel. So what? You are not wasting money. You are buying memories. 2, one of the biggest mistakes.
If you wish to change any of the conditions of your life, you have to change the thoughts that precede those conditions. You have to change what is going on in your mind. Now, wonderfully enough, there's only one thing in the whole universe over which you have complete control, and that is your thoughts. So if you take full and complete control over your thoughts and keep your thoughts on what it is you want, make them positive causes, the conditions or effects will take care of themselves with the inexorability of a law of nature. Your thoughts become causative agents, the conditions become the effects. We're always trying to view our world, rationalize our world, interpret our world so that it is consistent with what we have already decided to believe. We develop what is called scotomas. A scotoma is a word in psychology that simply says that we develop blind spots. We do not see opportunities if we are convinced that there are no opportunities. We do not see possibilities for success if we don't believe that success is possible for us. However, if we begin to change our beliefs, we begin to change our realities. If you spend time with losers, you will be a loser yourself. Get away from the losers. Get away from the no-hopers. Get away from the negative people, because these people will drag you down as surely as an anchor would drag you down if it was tied to your leg. 99% of the failure rate in life could be attributed to associating with people who were going nowhere. Because we're so strongly influenced by the people around us. We talk like them, we walk like them, we take on their attitudes, their values, their beliefs, their expectations, even their self-concepts. If we associate with negative people, critical people, cynical people, lazy people, people who waste their time, we will become exactly like them. Every one of us has the tendency to be like a chameleon. We take on the colorings and the behaviors of the people around us. So it's very important that you make a decision what you want to be like, and you begin to associate with people who are like that. Do you want to fulfill your potential as a human being or not? If you want to fulfill your potential as a human being, here's the facts. I'm not making the facts up, I'm just telling you, here's the facts. But if you associate with losers, you'll be a loser.
What if I told you that your brain is not fixed, but limitless? That you can break free from the patterns of the past and rewire your brain to create an entirely new future? The truth is, your brain has unlimited potential. You just need to know how to prepare it. In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how to prepare your brain to be unlimited, step by step. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand the science behind your limitless potential, but also how to tap into it starting today. Our brains are designed to adapt, evolve, and grow. Yet most of us live our lives limited by old habits, outdated beliefs, and predictable emotional states. We think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and make the same choices, day in and day out. As a result, we reinforce the same neural pathways, locking ourselves into a finite version of who we are. But here's the exciting part. Through neuroplasticity, your brain has the ability to rewire itself. And through intentional practice, you can create new neural pathways that align with your vision of the future, rather than being tethered to the memories of the past. So, what does it mean to prepare your brain to be unlimited? Let's start with the basics. Your brain is a record of your past. Every memory, thought, and experience you've ever had is stored in its circuitry. The stronger the emotional charge tied to an experience, the more deeply it's hardwired. For most people, this becomes their state of being. They think the same thoughts, which lead to the same choices, which produce the same experiences, which create the same emotions. And over time, they condition their brain to be predictable rather than unlimited. To break free, we need to do 3 things. Interrupt the old patterns. When you become aware of your limiting thoughts and emotions, you disrupt the autopilot. Awareness is the first step to change. Rehearse the new future. By visualizing a new reality and emotionally connecting with it, you teach your brain to fire new neural circuits. The brain doesn't distinguish between a real experience and an imagined one if the emotion is strong enough. Surrender to the unknown. When you step into the unknown and trust the process, you allow yourself to create from the quantum field, where all possibilities exist. The quantum field responds not to what you want, but to who you are. By aligning your thoughts and emotions with your desired future, you're preparing your brain to be unlimited. Now let's get practical. I'm going to guide you through a simple exercise that you can do every day to prepare your brain for limitless possibilities. Find a quiet space and let's begin. Step 1, relax and center yourself. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Inhale for a count of 4, hold for 4, and exhale for 4. Repeat this until you feel calm and centered. Step 2, become aware of the old self. Ask yourself, what thoughts, emotions, or behaviors have been keeping me stuck? Visualize them as a script you've been playing on repeat. Acknowledge them without judgment and mentally set them aside. Step 3, envision the unlimited you. Now shift your focus to your future. Who do you want to be? What does your unlimited life look like? Imagine it in vivid detail. Feel the emotions you'd experience. Gratitude, joy, empowerment, as if it's already happening. Step 4, anchor the emotion. Stay in this elevated state for 5 to 10 minutes. Allow the feeling to flood your body, conditioning your brain and energy to match your desired future. Step 5, practice daily. Consistency is key. The more you practice this exercise, the more you'll rewire your brain to think, feel, and act like the unlimited version of yourself. Your brain is an incredible tool, capable of far more than you've been taught to believe. By breaking free from the patterns of the past and aligning yourself with the possibilities of the future, you're not just preparing your brain to be unlimited, you're preparing yourself to create a life beyond your wildest dreams. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel for more insights on transformation and the quantum field, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let's step into the unlimited together.
When you affirm, it's in the now. When you think about yourself as you would like to be, it is always in the now. The subconscious mind is, by the way, it's very literal. So when you create affirmations, and you can recreate affirmations for every goal that you can imagine. I earn X number of dollars. I weigh X number of pounds. I am a kind, loving human being. I am disciplined and industrious and fastidious. I am a good driver. I am punctual. I like myself. I am responsible. I feel great. I feel happy. I have health. I have energy. Interesting affirmation. If you repeat the affirmation over and over again, I have health. I have energy. I have health. I have energy. You can actually build up your body's resistance to things like colds and flus. When you close your eyes, see yourself as though you had the characteristic or quality right now. Speak in terms of having the characteristic or quality right now. When you say, I like myself, you don't say, I like myself. You say, I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. Imagine when you say, I am responsible, you don't say, I am responsible. You say, I am responsible. I am responsible. In other words, emotionalize it. Wrap it up with emotion. Drive it into the subconscious mind like a detonator, and the effect that it will have on your personality and on your feelings will be tremendous. I am responsible. I am responsible. I am responsible. This, in conjunction with I like myself, I am responsible, is the most powerful, positive affirmation you can use, because the instant that you say I am responsible, you exert complete control over your emotional life. The instant you say I am responsible, suddenly you are back in the driver's seat. You cannot say I am responsible and feel a negative emotion simultaneously. The one knocks the other one out of your conscious mind. And you can start off, for instance, each one of us has a situation that causes us a lot of aggravation. You have a situation, it may be a person, but every time you think about it, you get angry. Every time you think about it, you get cross or you get distracted. What you do is whenever you start to think about that situation, neutralize it by saying, I am responsible. Wait a minute, I am responsible. Is it a relationship? Who got yourself into the relationship? Did somebody put you there at gunpoint, or did you get into it by yourself? Is it a job? Is it an investment? Is it a health problem of some kind? In every case, accept responsibility. Negative emotions come from inside you. Negative emotions are not contained in external situations. Negative emotions are not caused by other people or other situations. Negative emotions are caused by your response to other situations. The negative emotions start off like a spark, and as they are fed, as we dwell upon them, as we justify them, as we become judgmental about the situation, they start to grow and grow and grow until they absolutely consume our minds. But the negative emotion does not come from the situation. Is that you are always free to choose the quality of your emotional life. Is that you choose to become angry. Now understand this, nobody makes you feel anything. Nobody makes you feel angry. Nobody makes you feel tense. Nobody makes you feel upset. You always decide how you're going to feel, and then if you're not careful, you will fall into a negative habit pattern of blaming the other person. Blame is the core of all negative emotions. When you stop blaming, you cut down the negative emotion tree. You cut it off, you kill it, and all the negative emotions die simultaneously.
People who are not fear-based don't need to express domination.
Okay.
Remember that when you express the idea of attempting to dominate, that means you don't believe you actually have any power. Because if you really know you have power, what would be the point of dominating? You're already as powerful as you need to be to create whatever reality you prefer. If you have to dominate, you're saying you're powerless. I don't have any other way of creating what I prefer other than trying to control my reality and other people's reality and force them into this idea that makes me feel safe. You understand?
Yes.
Because if they haven't been given the tools to get in touch with their own self-empowerment, they're going to feel powerless, and that scares them. And therefore, they're in denial of that because it scares them to even look at it. And therefore, they have to project outwardly onto others the idea of their fear.
We also see in men 1,300% increase in testosterone just from somewhere between a 13 to 15 hour fast. And then we start to see inflammation go down. So all of a sudden, if you have people who have like joints that are hurting, they start doing 15 hours of fasting every day and they're like, God, you know, my joints just don't have that same stiffness in them anymore. But if you stay in that fasted window, you keep going 17 hours, your brilliant body turns within and it goes, wait a second, no food's coming in, we better get stronger. So it literally takes the bad cells, the cells that are slowing you down, the cells that are turning into cancer, and it gets rid of those. They're called senescent cells. And it literally recycles them out of your system, and it goes into the cells that are still usable, and it makes them stronger. It fixes the intercellular parts We call that autophagy. And that's when you go without food, your cells will heal themselves.
People who are grateful about life and see the beauty in life end up attracting more beauty. People who whine about life and get addicted to problems attract more problems. People who are addicted to complexity attract more complexity. People who are attracted to simplicity and ease and human connection attract more freedom. So what are you addicted to? We don't just get addicted to cigarettes and alcohol. We get addicted to problems. We get addicted to work. We get addicted to bullshit, politics and drama. What are you addicted to? So when you embrace the philosophy that everything that comes my way, I solve in a fun and easy way. When you embrace the philosophy that life is so easy, that starts becoming real. And that's what you want to be addicted to. Be addicted to gratitude.
Fastest ways to get a read on another human being is how often they're blinking. If a person is blinking fast, it's a sign of high stress. If they're blinking really slow, it's a sign of focus. So if I talk to a psychopath in an interrogation room and they're very focused on prey, so we call that a prey focus, their blink rate will almost be a 0 because they're going to manipulate somebody. If I talk to somebody who's being deceptive, their blink rate can go up to like a 75, 80 without us even knowing it. So one of the reasons that blink rate is so reliable is that it's unconscious. We don't realize the shifts in blink rate and we don't manually control it very well. And if all that I would ever need to teach somebody, you don't have to count or know how many times per minute it's going on, is if I'm in a conversation, I'm going to start the conversation and say, is the blink rate normal? Does it look fast? Does it look slow? So what I'm really looking for in human behavior are changes. So if I'm on stage and let's say I'm doing a keynote, and across the room, I'm making eye contact with all these people, and I start seeing an increase in audience blink rate, I know I need to change the subject or change the topic right away.
Nobody changes until they change their energy. And when you change your energy, you change your life. Don't expect anything in your life to change if your environment is controlling your feelings and thoughts, and if your environment is controlling how you feel and think. And I say to you, Aubrey, why are you so upset today? Oh, well, this person is upsetting me. What you're really saying is that person is controlling your feelings and your thoughts, and that means you're a victim to your environment. So to turn that around and you start realizing your feelings and thoughts create your environment, and you start seeing the effects of you at cause, you're going to react less to the people in your life because you're going to understand that you'll be back to the victim consciousness. And when you start seeing that you're creating outcomes in your life, you're going to believe more that you're the creator of your life and less the victim of your life. And I say, the more you practice it, the better you get at it. In order for a person to change a belief or a perception about themselves and their life, the majority of those people made a decision with such firm intention that the amplitude of that decision carried a level of energy that was greater than the hardwired programs in their brain and the emotional conditioning in their body. And as I said earlier, their body literally responded to their mind. The choice that they were making became a moment in time they would never forget. They'll tell you where they were, what time of day it was, who they were with when they made up their mind to change. It became a long-term memory. And the stronger the emotion we feel, the more altered we are inside of us, the more we remember that choice. Painted yourself into a corner and you said, this is it. I don't care how I feel, body. I don't care how long it takes, time. I don't care what people think. I don't care what's going on in my life, environment. I'm going to do this. And you made up your mind. The moment you felt that emotion, you were aligning to a new future. And to change is to be greater than your body, to be greater than your environment, and to be greater than time. The moment you start feeling gratitude and wholeness, your healing begins. The moment you start feeling worthy and abundant, you are generating wealth. The moment you walk in a state of empowerment, you are walking towards your success. The moment you are in love with life and in love with yourself, you create a vibrational match. The moment you're in awe of life, you are going to have a mystical experience. And now you are causing an effect.
Every single one of you, without exception, are absolutely powerful enough to have every single thing that is relevant for you without having to hurt anyone else or yourself in order to manifest it. That's how powerful you are. When you are being the puzzle piece you were created to be in the shape you were created, then you will fit with all other puzzle pieces also allowing themselves to be the shape they were created to be. It's only when you attempt to be a shape you're not that you no longer fit in the big picture puzzle and thus prevent the big picture from being formed that is capable of supporting all the pieces within it. Make sense? Of course it does. That's why we said it.
If it's really that important to you to create the reality you say you prefer, you will do what it takes. You will do anything. You will be hungry to create a vibration of passion within you all the time. Which means that if you have any kind of permission slip or tool available to you, you will use it as often as you can. You will inundate yourself with it until there can be no other thought, until there is no other choice. To put it in pragmatic terms, if you find yourself one day feeling that your energy is waning, listen. Put on your headphones and listen to the secret again. If the next day you find your energy is waning, put on your headphones and listen to it again. And again, 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 until you get it. Until it sinks in, until it becomes second nature, until it becomes your first thought. Until you don't think any other way. Inundate, immerse yourself in all the things that are of that nature, to the exclusion of all other techniques, all other offerings, all other tools.
If you have a definition that says, well, I would like to act on my excitement, but I'm not really sure it can support me, what kind of a reality reflection do you think you're actually going to see in the things that pop up in your life? You're going to get opportunities that are going to look like your excitement that are not going to be able to support you because you don't believe that your excitement can. So you're getting exactly what you asked for.
Yes.
Something that looks like excitement that can't support you. That's a reflection of what you're putting out. It's that simple. You just have to be clear based on the reflection what you're putting out and make course corrections and adjustments to actually allow yourself to go into a true definition of excitement so that you can get a true reflection of excitement. Not that you need to. That's the paradox. Remember that the idea, the measure of true change within yourself is not whether the outside reflection changes, it's whether you respond differently to the outside, even if it still looks the same. That's how you prove you've changed, because you're not making your state of being conditional on what's happening around you. You're just making a statement that this is the state of being I prefer, and it doesn't matter what's going on around me, because those things can't affect me in any way I don't choose to be affected. So it doesn't matter what's happening. They're just circumstances. They're just neutral. They're just props. I choose what state of being I prefer, regardless of what's going on around me. And when you do that, then paradoxically, what's going on around you has more opportunity to change, to reflect the true change you've made. Not that it has to, not that you need it to, it just will, because now you have proven you've truly changed, because you don't care whether the outside changes or not. You're going to be happy anyway.
Yes.
And that's when you're truly happy, and that's when the outside can actually reflect the happiness back to you. Bashar gives us the formula of acting on your passion to the best you can with no insistence on the outcome, is that's what reveals to you in the process what your beliefs actually are that are out of alignment with your true self. So that's why he brings everything back to that formula and back to that toolkit, because if you do see or experience the idea of other people's fear-based ideas, and you give your power away to other authority figures when you don't necessarily agree with what they're doing, and so on and so forth, you have every opportunity to change that for your experience. And as we said earlier, it requires not only a combination of changing the belief within you, but it requires speaking in the language of physical reality, which means you must take a physical action that represents that change, or you're not committed to the reality of that change because you're not acting like it's in your behavior. What you know to be true, you do. It's in your behavior. Like if you ask somebody to stand up and walk around, they usually don't sit there and go, well, now let me see. Do I believe I can do that? I don't know. Let me look at my belief system. No, they get up and walk around because they know they can. It's not even a question of belief. They know they can. So when you can convert the idea of a belief into something you know to be true, which is what Bashar is explaining as if you understand the basic structure of existence, you know what you're dealing with, then you can allow yourself to exhibit it in your internal energy and exhibit it in your outward behavior, which is then speaking the language of the higher mind and the physical mind simultaneously. And that is how you transform your experience, no matter what the reality still looks like.
Some of these people,
Yes, these people.
they are us and we are them.
Exactly.
But doggone it, they're pretty nasty.
Yes. They are choosing to be primarily because they have never taught themselves or been taught by anyone how to truly find their power. They are afraid because they believe they are powerless. Therefore, when someone believes they have no power, they will try to control everything because they don't want to be alone. You know the phrase on your planet, misery loves company?
Yes.
Well, the idea is if you teach them that they are capable of being self-empowered, then they won't have to be afraid and they won't have to try controlling others because they will know they're already in control and they can relax.
What if they don't want to be taught?
Then they don't want to be taught. And you have done the service of giving them the opportunity and the option, then simply move on your way, knowing that no matter what they choose to do, it has absolutely no effect on your life other than the effect you choose to match. Okay. It doesn't matter what anyone else's intention toward you is. It only matters what meaning you give to the situation that you believe is true for you. You understand?
Yes. Wonderful.
Because many people on your planet have an easier time of defining what it is they are by seeing more examples of what they are not more clearly. So it's up to you to have the discernment to be able to tell the difference. But your excitement is going to bring both to your attention. Not just one, it will always bring both. Because the more you expand your consciousness, the more aware you become of the side that is not you. Not less aware, the more aware you become of the things that are not you, of the choices that you don't prefer. You don't choose them as much, but you still become more aware that they exist as a choice. Because it gives you an opportunity to allow all things to be equal. And if you're expanding, then you have to know more about the things you are not, as well as more about the things you are, so that you always have the ability to choose on an equal basis. It can't be lopsided. Otherwise, it's out of balance. You understand?
Yes.
So even though you will not necessarily experience the negativity as much, you will actually know more about the possibility of choosing it. That's what the expansion of awareness is all about. But that's different. Just being aware of something doesn't mean it automatically manifests. You have to consciously choose it or unconsciously choose it. You understand?
Yes.
Does that help clarify this process?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This video is for entertainment purposes only. Question everything and do your own research.
When we lie, our bodies get very weak. So stick your arm out.
Yeah.
and hold it up. Don't let me push it down, okay? Now, I want you to do that while lying. And the lie I'd like you to say is, I love to vomit.
I love to vomit. Why? That's so weird.
Now say, I love fresh air.
I love fresh air.
Now say, I love to vomit.
I love to vomit. Why is that? When I said I love to vomit, it was like I wasn't actually connected to my strength and my hand.
Exactly.
I wasn't in, it was like I was inside my head, so I couldn't also at the same time think about you're about to push me.
Right.
It was like there was two different systems.
Yes, because the body lives in reality. The body is honest. Only the mind and only the verbal mind can lie to us and tell us things that we can believe even though they're not true. So I love to vomit is a statement that says it's okay for me to feel horrible. But a smaller version of this is I often speak to groups, and often they're in like hotel ballrooms or in auditoriums. And I'll stop right in the middle of the speech and say, is everyone comfortable? And they'll say, yes. And no, really, truly, are you genuinely comfortable? Are you really comfortable? And they say, yes, go on with your speech. And then I say, so how many of you, if you were sitting at home alone, if you were at home alone right now, how many of you would be in exactly the position you're in at this moment? And nobody raises a hand. And then I say, why not? And they have to sit and think for a long time before someone finally says, I'm not completely comfortable this way. And I would say, well, that's okay. What concerns me and should concern you is that 30 seconds ago, you swore to me in broad daylight that you were absolutely comfortable. Well, you knew you weren't. Your body knew you weren't comfortable, and your mind was doing this little trick where it goes very quickly through this. Okay, in order to listen to speeches, we sit in uncomfortable positions, and that's okay because it's worth the benefit we get out of it. So given that, I am tolerably comfortable. But all you think is, I'm comfortable when you're not comfortable. So people come to me and they're in jobs where they're not comfortable, in relationships where they're like sometimes in intense suffering, in religions where they're not comfortable, in all kinds of places. And they think they're comfortable, but they're getting sick. They're getting physically sick, or they're getting addicted to a substance because they're trying to numb the discomfort they won't acknowledge.
A woman wants to be with a man whose reality is so strong that she folds into it. But most men don't understand this. Here's a big secret. The next time that you're with her, instead of thinking, how do I impress her? Flip it to, how do I let her experience me? We've all been with friends or people we're comfortable with, and we are in our own reality. And we're not thinking like, is this joke going to make them laugh? We're just enjoying like our own reality. And that's what I mean by living in your own reality. Instead of nervously feeling that pressure to fill every silence, you'd let the quiet moments hang because you're comfortable in your own skin. Or instead of agreeing with everything that she says, you'd playfully challenge her, showing her that you're not afraid to push back a little bit when she says something that doesn't line up with your values or you have a different opinion. This naturally pulls her into your reality.
Any tool, any ritual, any technique is simply a permission slip designed to match the frequency of your specific belief system in such a manner as to allow you to allow yourself to give yourself permission to be more of who you are. It's simply, in a sense, a trigger that allows you to shift in the way you prefer to. The shifting is never actually done by the ritual, by the tool, or by the technique. It's simply something that matches your belief system so well that you think it's actually changing you. All it's doing is allowing you to relax your stronghold on one particular set of beliefs and relax them enough so that you're finally willing to give yourself permission to change in ways you say are more representative of your true natural self. So that's why we call any such technique, including the one we are about to deliver, simply a permission slip. And it doesn't matter for you, in a sense, whatever the permission slip is. Every permission slip that you believe will work for you will work for you. The idea is that you have an imagination, which is the conduit of communication between your physical mind and your higher mind, and through that conduit comes the communication from higher mind through the brain to the physical mind, and from the physical mind back through the brain to the higher mind. The imagination is the conduit of that communication. And by using that imagination, and specifically in this technique through the idea you call visualization, will we thus then design together here today a specific permission slip that takes advantage of your visualization capabilities, your imagination capabilities, your communication with higher self capabilities, to create a permission slip that you can use anywhere, anytime, and at the same time allow you to remember the most important thing, which is, if at any time your imagination decides to change the way in which you use this or any other permission slip, any other tool, technique, or ritual, then trust your own imagination, because your own imagination is keyed to your specific vibration. So be flexible enough when you allow yourself to use any tool, technique, ritual, permission slip, to be flexible enough to allow your imagination to alter it, change it, and adapt it in whatever way, shape, or form feels correct for you, because it is keyed to your vibration and it's taking its cue from your vibration. And as you change your vibration, change your frequency, different permission slips, different rituals, different techniques, different tools will work better for you than the ones you used to use. So go with the flow. That's the natural thing to do, and trust that your imagination will automatically provide exactly what kind of alteration or adaptation is correct for you. And trust that the synchronicity in your life will lead you to whatever information you need, and when you find yourself attracted to it, you are attracted to it for the reason that at that moment it will work best for you. And if you change your mind in the next moment, that's all right too.
You're going to want to listen to this.
The most common cause of divorce is not money. The most common cause is the wife does not feel like she can rely on her husband, and the husband does not feel that what he is giving is appreciated. In other words, he doesn't feel like he's a real giver. She doesn't feel like she's really receiving. That kills it, because essentially the man needs to know that he is providing, and the woman needs to know that she has someone to rely on.
You cannot minimize a man's need to feel like he's contributing, to feel like he's providing, to feel like he's the hero in the relationship. And if a woman can't express that, or if a man can't feel that, it's game over.
Life by itself doesn't have any meaning. You give it meaning. Nothing has built-in meaning. It's all neutral. It's all empty. The meaning you give it determines how you experience it. So if you want to allow yourself to assume that no matter what happens, no matter how it looks, even if it was generated by others negatively, or even by you negatively, in any given moment, you have the option to redefine it in a positive way. It doesn't matter how many other people are involved. It doesn't matter how it was originally generated. Every circumstance is neutral until you give it a meaning. And then that's the effect you get out of it. And whoever really needs to interact with you will be there. And who doesn't need to interact with you will not be. Period. You're treating the idea of tendency as if it is a law of the universe. It's not. It's an opinion, it's a belief, it's a perspective, and that can be changed.
I would love to change it.
Then change it. You have to find out what it is first. Because you see, you all operate on a belief system. Whatever you believe to be true is what you do. Now, you can recognize that there may be things you would prefer to do that you're not doing, But the only reason you wouldn't do them is somehow in your motivational mechanism within your psychology. The only reason you wouldn't be acting on what really gives you joy is you must be defining it as something that wouldn't. That's why you would move away from it with all your power and all your strength. You have to find the definition that is coloring your excitement and making it seem darker than it is. When you find that definition that's coloring it, that's dampening it down, that's filtering it so you can't see the light in it that clearly, then you can let go of that definition, because once you discover what that definition is that's out of alignment with your truth, you will see that it's nonsensical. It makes no sense. It's something you picked up on the way from your parents, your society, your friends, your school. Someone, somewhere, fed you a belief that has nothing to do with you. It belongs to them. You're carrying around belief baggage that has nothing to do with you. Drop it. It doesn't belong to you. But you have to identify what that belief is in order to see how nonsensical it is to keep buying into it. So that's the process and that's the exercise. You ask the question in one of two ways. A, what would I have to believe is true about myself in this circumstance in order to feel what I'm feeling? Or B, as we already asked you, if I did act on my highest passion, what am I most terrified might happen? One way or the other, the answer, the definition will come to you if you're willing to receive it. And once you receive it, you will see there was actually nothing to be afraid of. It's just something you bought into and believed to be true, and that's what made it seem real. Because remember, physical reality is an illusion. The belief systems are simply designed to make you believe that it's real. That's how they operate. If belief systems didn't work to perpetuate themselves and make it seem real, you couldn't have a physical experience, because physical reality isn't real. It's just a projection of consciousness. It's a shadow play. It's a projection on a wall. And the beliefs make it seem dimensional and solid. It's not. It's not. You get to choose what to believe is true within the parameters of the game that you're playing. But that is a lot of leeway. And you can decide that some definitions and some beliefs simply don't work for you, and decide which ones do, and move through life that way. Because again, you will never be contradicted by life itself. What you put out is what you get back. It may not always look like you think, it may not always look like you expect, but it will be there for a reason. And if you stay in a positive state with it and know that there must be a positive reason why something showed up, as we said earlier, even if it's something you don't objectively, neutrally prefer, it's there for a reason. And if you stay in the state of knowing that, you will always get the positive benefit from why that has shown up. If for nothing else, thank you, if for nothing else, that sometimes you will draw what you don't prefer as a contrast to more clearly understand by comparison what you do prefer. And that's how you use what you don't prefer in a preferable way. Make sense?
Yeah.
Does that help?
No.
All right. That's your path. We will let you ponder it. Let it sink in. These are the way things work. This is how reality works from our perspective. But you have your own path.
Thank you so much.
Our unconditional love.
Mine too. Thank you.
What if I fail?
What does that mean? What does failure mean? Do you know the story of your own Edison?
Yes.
Do you?
No.
You understand it took approximately 2,000 tries before Edison actually created a working light bulb? Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
And someone asked him, well, how does it feel to have failed 2,000 times? And Edison's response was, I didn't fail. I found 2,000 ways not to make a light bulb. You understand?
Yes.
Your definition is what makes you experience the concept of failure. If it's an experience you can learn something from, how can that ever be a failure? The failure, if you want anything close to a true failure, is to not be yourself. Then you could say you failed. But even then, not really. Because that's still an experience that your soul can learn from and use. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So, as we often say, if at first you don't succeed, redefine success to something that works for you.
I like that.
Really to be the most magnetic version of you, embrace being bad. Because what you think of as bad is not some villain like Voldemort from Harry Potter, right? Being bad is literally expressing yourself seems bad. And sometimes I think people that are empaths, they've had a quote-unquote villain in their life earlier in life, someone playing the villain archetype. You had a narcissistic parent or somebody that had control over you, so life wasn't fair. So you had to fight for your freedom. So what happened is you said, I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be anything like this person in my life that was bad because this person that was bad caused me pain. I don't want to be like that. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to be good. I'm going to be the good kid, the good person. I'm going to be the responsible one. I'm going to do what everyone else wants me to do. I'm going to ease the tension. And what ends up happening is we associate good with abandonment and we associate bad with expression and vulnerability. So one of the important parts of the process, I believe, of really coming into your full power is embrace being bad. Embrace being somebody that gives other people tension.
There are only 5 facts that we have ever discovered in existence. We call them the 5 laws. Number 1, you exist. Nothing you can do about that. Nothing. That's a fact. Number 2, everything is here and now.
More free if people cannot like you or not accept you and you are okay with that. That is when you are actually free. You are no longer in some box trying to be the way people want you to be or what you think you need to be in order to be accepted. That's really true freedom. So you could even go as far to say that freedom is the ability to be disliked. It's to be okay with it and to know that ultimately you like you because you're being real and authentic. That's more important. And what happens is normally as a reflection of your own self-acceptance, other people will be attracted to that.
If you set out to like more people, you become more likable. Dr. Van Sloan, he wanted to know what makes popular kids popular. Why is it that some kids across these grades and ages are really popular? He had all the kids ranked across all these schools. He had them looked at traits, and then he guessed what made the popular kids popular. Were they more athletic? Were they more attractive? Were they funnier? Were they smarter? What was it? The most popular kids had the longest list of people they liked. So when he asked, one of the questions of the survey was, who do you like? They had the longest lists. And when he looked at their day-to-day, they had micro moments of liking. They would go down the hallway and be like, hey, Chad. Hey, Chelsea. Hey, Sarah. They liked so many people, and that in turn made them more likable. This showed me that being likable is in our control. Being likable means you have to be first liker. If you set out to like more people, you become more likable. And that was a really big shift for me because for so long, I thought it was all about me. It's a very selfish way to be, right? I was like, I better be impressive, I better be funny. But actually, what makes us likable is just liking as many people as possible.
Everything you need to know is this. Truly, this. Whatever options are available to you at any given moment, choose the one that contains more excitement than any other, even if it's just a little bit more. Act on it to the best of your ability, taking it as far as you can until you can take it no further. Do this with integrity. Do this with absolutely no assumption, no insistence on what the outcome ought to be or how it should look or how you should get there whatsoever. When you do that 3-part formula, act on your highest excitement to the best of your ability with no insistence on the outcome, you open up and activate the kit, the toolkit of excitement. The toolkit contains everything you need to be supported in life in whatever form it needs to come in, the driving engine that moves you through life, the organizing principle of synchronicity that allows you to do what you need to do when you need to do it in perfect timing, in perfect order. It becomes the path of least resistance that allows you to flow through your life effortlessly. It becomes the path that connects you to all other expressions of your excitement, even if they don't look like they're connected on the surface. It's the excitement that tells you that they are. And it becomes the reflective mirror that reveals to you anything within your consciousness that might be out of alignment with that excitement, so that you can identify those definitions that don't work for you and let them go and add their energy to your excitement and continue to expand. And then any circumstance whatsoever, any situation whatsoever that arises from those actions, no matter how it looks, if you give it a positive meaning, you will only get a positive and beneficial effect, regardless of how the situation may have originated, regardless of anyone else's opinion or experience in that situation. That's it. That's all you need to know. Now, many people on your planet choose to complicate things beyond that and make them more difficult, but they don't have to. If they do, then that's their process. But it all comes down to understanding that what you believe to be true, what you define to be true, is how you experience your reality. And that your beliefs generate your feelings, your thoughts, and your behaviors. So anytime you have a behavior you don't prefer, a thought you don't prefer, a feeling you don't prefer, you can always trace it back down the line to something you must believe to be true that you're not aware of. Find out what that belief and definition is. When you identify it, if it's out of alignment with your true self, you will find that it will suddenly be nonsensical and illogical, and you'll drop it and let it go. If you don't drop it, if you still behave the same way, you haven't found the deeper belief yet. Keep digging. That's it. That's all you actually need to know.
How do you keep your energy levels so high at age 67?
I think that's got a lot to do with the intermittent fasting that I've been doing for the last 15 years. You know, people think that you cannot go all day without eating and have energy. But it's the flip side of that. You know, because I go all day, my body switches over to burning the body fat, which gives you a constant energy rather than up and down. Every time you eat, you stimulate your insulin and you feel tired afterwards. Having fasted for years, I've learnt that I just have a constant energy supply all day. In fact, when I eat, I feel more like relaxing and going to sleep.
Hey, what if the way that we respond to life's unexpected moments, both good and bad, determines not just our outcomes, but our capacity for growth? And what if the key lies in a single underrated habit? Curiosity. Curiosity is more than just idle interest. It's a cognitive tool, one that can transform the way we engage with the world. When we meet challenges or surprises with curiosity instead of judgment, we shift from reacting to exploring. And that shift creates space. Space to think, to learn, and to grow. Psychologists call this a state of inquisitive openness, where the brain moves out of reactivity and into problem solving. When you ask questions, why do I feel like this? What's really happening here? What can I take from this? You activate your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logic and creativity. Curiosity doesn't just ease stress, it fosters resilience. It transforms obstacles into opportunities for understanding. Consider criticism. When we're criticized, our instinct might be defensiveness or avoidance. But if we pause and ask ourselves, what's behind this feedback? Or how might this help me grow? We reframe the experience. Even in moments of joy, a surprise opportunity, for instance, curiosity deepens our engagement. Instead of rushing to act, we might pause and ask ourselves, what makes this possible now? How might I use it? The beauty of curiosity is that it's both disarming and empowering. It allows us to move beyond the surface of our experiences and uncover the deeper layers that they hold. This isn't about naive optimism. It's about choosing exploration over reaction. So, next time you encounter the unexpected, pause. Instead of reacting out of habit, ask yourself, what is this here to teach me? How can I approach this moment with curiosity? That small shift can expand the way you think, respond, and ultimately live.
You know, the only difference in steam and ice is the state of vibration of the water or the H2O. Do you know the only difference in where you are versus where you want to go is your state of vibration? Do you know that everything to get you there is already here? And it always has been. You know, when you take an idea and you impregnate it over and over again, you impregnate that idea into one cell. When you impregnate that idea into the cell, that cell is dividing 1 into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8, and the process goes on at the rate of 50,000 cells per second. And the more and more you act on it, even though you don't feel good about it, but you work with the idea, you start to develop this change in vibration, but what is really happening is you're impregnating the cells with the characteristic or the idea. What we need to do is we need to constantly think about where we're going, what we want to do, and we start to increase our level of thinking by vibration, and we begin to attract thoughts of a like nature that'll move us in that direction.
I wish that more women knew, more wives knew, how much their men, in their wonky, awful, not good ways, are chasing 3 words or 4 words. I'm proud of you. For all the wives and girlfriends listening to this, just try it. Go home, look them in the eye and just say, hey, I need you to hear me say, I'm really proud of you. All the work you're putting in. Just try it. Watch what happens. You'll melt in front of them.
If you say sorry all the time, you're making yourself look weak, and nobody respects the weak. You think apologizing makes you seem polite or empathetic? Wrong. Apologizing for things that aren't your fault sends one message: I don't believe in myself. Every unnecessary sorry you throw out strips away your power. I think about it, when was the last time someone apologized to you and earned your respect? Exactly. Apologies only matter when they're deserved, but most of you are using them like a crutch. Here's a story for you. A guy I know used to apologize all the time. Late to a meeting? Sorry. Couldn't answer a question? Sorry. You know what people saw in him? Weakness. Until one day he decided to stop apologizing for everything. He replaced sorry with thank you for your patience, or just stayed silent when he didn't need to apologize. Within a month, his entire reputation changed. People started treating him with respect because he acted like he deserved it. Cut out the fake apologies. One more strategy is to reclaim your power. Hit follow now and never let your words make you look weak again.
1991, scientists made a discovery that shocked the medical community for sure. What they found was a neural network inside the human heart. They found about 40,000 specialized cells. They're called sensory neurites. They're like neurons, brain, but they're not in the brain, they're in the heart. They think independently of the human brain. They feel independently of the human brain. They sense, they remember independently of the human brain. So right there, I've just said a big piece of information that affects all of us, and here's why. We all have had trauma in our lives, every one of us. When we have trauma, it's registered in multiple places. And if you attempt to heal that trauma only through thinking and talking about it, the talking or the therapies may not have addressed the thinking and the memory independent in the heart. The heart has a very different language, doesn't always work with the words. This is one of the amazing things that we're finding out about the human heart.
Those that are the most insecure, the most connected to the concept of lack of self-worth, will express their ego in a very exaggerated way to counterbalance and make up for the fact that they don't actually believe they're worthy. So they will attempt to express worthiness through the aggrandizement and amplification and blowing up of their ego, and express themselves in a very egotistical, very often narcissistic way. This should be the first clue that they really don't have self-value in mind, because they are attempting to create an expression of it, but it's in a sense an act, and they don't really believe in what they are saying, in what they are doing, in what they are expressing. They just don't want anyone else to know that they feel worthless. So they will put on a front, and they will seek many times, again as a symptom that you can recognize in life, the idea of outside validation over and over and over again, requiring quite often the idea of others to validate them, because they do not spend the time to validate themselves. So they will, in the sense, become very needy. Very often will be one of the strong symptoms, requiring constant validation from those around them, since they will not give it to themselves. This will, of course, create secondary negative effects in any form of relationship that they may find themselves in, because they will always be only relying on others to create the sense of worth that they simply deny themselves. So you can look for these symptoms and understand that it is coming from a place where they do not feel valued and do not know how to give themselves the idea of self-valuation, self-appreciation, to the degree that if they don't get it from others, if they don't, in some sense, insist on it from the outer reflection, they will feel empty, bereft, abandoned. But then another side effect of that, because they will awesomely be in denial of the idea that they are lacking worth, because they don't want to face that, is they will project onto others the idea that they are being abandoned, not being supported, not being valued by others, because they cannot face the fact that they are not valuing themselves because they believe themselves not to be worthy of value. But they are in denial of the fact that they are doing that to themselves, so they will always project it on others who are not then willing to do it for them. These are symptoms as well of that self-devaluation, that lack of self-worth as a belief.
The greatest things I learned from a relationship coach, she said, we don't fall in love with the other person. We fall in love with the version of us that we get to be through and with the other person. Because love becomes so personified. It's over there with them, so then devastation happens if they leave. It's like, well, the love is over there. No, 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 no. They're the catalyst to reveal the love that is your nature. So who were you with that man? That's what you want. You don't want him. You want the you that you were with him.
Right, I was just so open.
Yeah, there was a joy, there was a freedom. You had a sense of possibility for the future, of what was going to happen, the family, the marriage, the trips. But you generated that.
Yeah.
You just associated it with him. And the lie is, because he's not in your life, that you've lost that.
Yeah. Okay, so you're able to replicate like very, very deep love with literally anyone.
That's my nature.
That's really the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, honestly.
We might have just cracked you open to your real nature, yeah.
When you open up to all the forms of abundance, things can happen in a much more accelerated way. When you have belief systems that create resistance to the idea of opening up to the other forms, you slow everything down by insisting that it can only happen this way, and I can only do this if this happens in this way. Then you're actually slowing down the process by which you might actually have been capable of doing whatever that is much more quickly and much more easily. Is this making some sense? So allow yourself, as you go through life and as you act on your passion to the best you can, with no insistence or assumption on the outcome, please remember that third part of the formula, which many of you sometimes conveniently forget. I'm acting on my passion, I'm acting on my passion, I'm acting on my passion. And this had better happen, and this had better happen, and this had better happen, or something's wrong. That's not the formula. When we say act on your passion to the best you can, taking it as far as you can until you can take it no further, the implication in that statement is very clear. There will be moments when you will not be able to take it further in that way. That's not a block. It is an arrow pointing in an unexpected direction that is actually more representative of your true path. Let yourself go with the flow. Remember, sometimes many of you think that the path of least resistance is straight and true and short. Not always. In fact, not often. The idea is that sometimes the path of least resistance may be a very winding path, because it may need to get some experience under your belt. It may need to allow you to have a meeting over here with someone you hadn't met before. It may direct you over here to a bit of information that you require. so that you will have a deeper appreciation when you wind up wherever it is you are winding up by having gathered the things you needed on the way. That path is your path of abundance. The path of least resistance is the path of greatest abundance, greatest synchronicity, greatest allowance, greatest giving, greatest imagination, all of it. The idea being that even though some paths may look very short and very straight, if it's not your path of least resistance, it will actually take longer to travel that path than one that seems longer and winding, because the path of least resistance will offer no resistance. You will be able to move on that path much more quickly than a shorter path that has nothing to do with you, because that shorter path will be full of things that you will experience as resistance to slow you down, to indicate to you it's not your path. If you say, I am going to change because I don't care what's going on out there, because I know it doesn't matter what happens, it only matters what I do with what happens, then I'm going to choose to be this happy person, this joyful person, regardless of what I might be able to neutrally observe out there. And that is what will allow you, regardless of whether the outside looks any different or not, that's what will allow you to experience a beneficial effect. Because you can get a beneficial effect even from something that looks negative to someone else. It's up to you to determine what you experience in your own reality. It doesn't matter what that thing looks like. You can extract a beneficial effect from the same thing someone else is extracting a negative effect from, because everything is fundamentally neutral. You're the one that puts the energy in that you get back. Is this making some sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Is this helping?
Yes, it is helping.
All right.
And thanks for your services. I'm happy to be here and nice to meet you.
And you as well. Again, it is our pleasure and our passion to interact with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's just a fact that you are worthy. You don't have to be brave to know you're worthy. It's just a fact. Because trust me, if you weren't worthy, you wouldn't exist, because creation doesn't make mistakes. Do you understand?
Yes.
So anytime you go about going, I'm not worthy, I'm afraid I'm going to be rejected, I'm undeserving, I'm not powerful, I'm not valuable, you are arguing with creation. Because if you weren't worthy, you wouldn't exist. And therefore, saying you're unworthy is arguing with creation. You will never win that argument, ever, 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 ever. For all eternity, you will never win that argument. So, if you are finally sick and tired of arguing the point that you're unworthy, then perhaps you are ready to stop arguing that point and start flowing into the assurance that you wouldn't exist if you were truly unworthy. If you had nothing to give, if your perspective was not valuable, you wouldn't exist. Does that make sense to you?
It does.
Remember, no situation has built-in meaning. Everything is fundamentally neutral. Life is meaningless. You're the one that's designed to give life meaning. If you give situations a positive meaning, you will get a beneficial positive effect. If you give them a negative definition, you can only get an effect that is representative of negativity, such as struggle, strife, difficulty, and obstacle. You only see it that way because you're defining it that way. Change your definition, you'll experience things in a very different way. That's how it works. What you put out is what you get back.
The secret to gaining the upper hand in a negotiation is giving the other side the illusion of control. Now that starts with asking what and how questions. What do you want me to do? How do you want to proceed? You're going to feel in control. If I don't like it, I gently just say, how's it going to work? And you think of something else. I get you to throw ideas out until you land on my answers. And then I go like, holy cow, you are so smart. That was brilliant. You're going to feel great about it. Plus you're going to implement.
So what are the things that are blocking our DNA from fully activating?
Belief systems that you've bought into that contain certain kinds of energies that don't allow for a free flow of your natural frequency.
That's why we say it's so important to get in touch with your definitions, because your definitions create your reality experience in totality. So when you clear out the definitions that are contrary to the true frequency of your essence, of your being, then you start to flow, you start to accelerate, you start to exhibit more of the aspects that are relevant for that level of energy expression. So getting in touch with those definitions is critical, is crucial, is key. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does this help?
Absolutely.
The more you ignore what the emotions are attempting to tell you about what beliefs you're holding on to, because that's what they're doing. They're saying, hey, you have something here that is not in alignment with you, figure it out. So they're actually delivering a message, especially fear is delivering a message saying, you have a belief about something that's not working for you. You need to figure out what it is, or I'll get stronger next time and stronger the next time. And it can become crippling, and it can become crippling to a point where you finally don't think there's anything you can do about it at all. And that can be lethal. So it's important to pay attention to those messages when they come gently knocking, so they don't have to get your attention by beating you over the head with a stick.
When you're thinking about a person, sometimes you think you're thinking of that person and believing that that person is the thing you can't stop thinking about. But really, it's what you believe that person is to you. It's the feeling that you get and what you believe that person has of why you're thinking about them. So there's like an emotional addiction sometimes to the way people think of other people. So when you're thinking of a person, you may be wanting their validation or approval, and the thing is you believe that that person has what you want. If you believe someone else has your approval or validation, you'll continue to think about them. And one of the reasons you're thinking about them is because there's a thought loop. If I think about them, then I send them something, then eventually they respond, then you're fueling that form of addiction. You literally believe that if you think of someone, you're going to get them to come around. Now the funny thing is, if you want that person to come around, the best thing you can do is just completely disconnect and put the energy back on yourself. So to stop thinking about them, understand it's not the person you can't stop thinking about, it's an addictive pattern in your brain. So really, you want to become aware of the addictive pattern in your brain and sit with the emotions that come up instead of numbing yourself by thinking of someone else.
Here's the first thing to remember. We understand this may seem a little bit contradictory to what will follow, but this is the most important thing to remember. Whatever it is that your physical mind is capable of conjuring up as a visualization or an image of what to you represents an ideal life, an ideal circumstance, an ideal situation, is just a symbol, just a representation. Very often, many humans on your planet are raised with the idea that, and especially nowadays in what you call your new age metaphysical awareness, you become fixated on the idea that what you picture has to become literally manifested exactly as you pictured it. No. The idea is this. The thing you visualize that is your representation, your symbol of that ideal reality serves one basic function: to get you in the proper state that is represented by that picture. Because circumstances and physical reality situations are just illusionary and don't really carry substance. It is the state of being that is the real reality, that is the real experience, and it is the state of being that really matters. It is the state of being that really matters, that manifests materiality, a material experience. The circumstances of how that manifests in that sense are not to be insisted upon as being just one way. Why? I'll tell you. Thank you. Your physical mind, while capable of having this visualization, is not fully capable of knowing how things could actually best happen. It's not designed to know how things will happen. The physical mind is only designed to know what's happening experientially. It is not designed to know how things will happen. Now you may say, but I can conceive of how things might happen. I can conceive in my imagination of images of things happening that haven't happened yet. No, not really. What you are experiencing when you conceive or imagine that idea is actually coming from the higher mind. That's part of the communication from the higher mind. The higher mind conceives. The physical brain receives. The physical mind perceives. That's how it works. The physical mind has never had an idea. Never. It is not the place where ideas are born. Ideas, concepts, imaginings come from the higher mind. But you see, the idea is that the physical mind and the higher mind must work together in concert in a balanced way for you to actually be considered a whole person. When you just think that the physical mind is supposed to do all the work and think of everything, you're actually only functioning as half a mind. Perhaps what some of you on your planet call a half-wit. The idea thus then is that you want to be whole-witted. And so you must allow for communication to occur, balance to occur, and sharing to occur with the higher mind in order to be functional as a whole person.
When you speak to your own body, you are the voice of God to that universe within you. See, within your body, you have a universe, an entire universe, all the cells and the organs. If you begin to talk to it, tell everybody how much you love it. I love you, heart. I love you, liver. Tell them how much you love it. It loves them because somebody's paying attention to it, and it will listen to you.
Did you know that setting a clear intention can actually reshape the way your brain works? This simple act, done with focus, can align your thoughts, actions, and emotions in a way that's scientifically proven to help you to reach your goals. Let me explain why this is so powerful. An intention is more than a wish or a vague hope. It's a deliberate statement about how you want to show up, what you want to create, and what you want to achieve. When you set an intention, you're essentially telling your brain, this is what's important. Focus here, and your brain listens. This is where the science comes in. Our brains have something called the reticular activating system, or RAS. Think of it as a filter that decides what information gets your attention. When you set an intention, it primes your RAS to notice opportunity, patterns, and ideas that align with your goal. It's the same mechanism at work when you suddenly start to notice a certain car everywhere the moment after you decided to buy one. You're training your brain to see what was always there, but you had previously overlooked. So you wake up and set the intention, today I'm going to focus on being patient. Throughout the day, your brain will keep nudging you, reminding you to pause before reacting, helping you to notice moments to practice patience. That's the power of intention. It's not just a thought, it's a compass guiding your actions. Here's the best part. You don't need perfect conditions to start setting intentions. You only need clarity. What matters most to you right now? What do you want to feel, achieve, or become? When you define that clearly and revisit it often, your actions naturally align. And over time, that alignment creates transformation. So, what's your intention for today? Not your to-do list, not your goals 5 years from now, but the focus that you want to carry into this moment. Set it, speak it, and watch how your brain and your life begin to shift.
I'm going to issue now an insight that your mind is going to reject. Your mind, your ego is going to hate it, and it'll say no, it will fight and struggle, and it will just not want to hear anything about it. And so the challenge to you now, if you're down for it, is to just simply play with this idea. Play with it, allow it to produce results for you. Just see the clarity that it creates in your mind and the power that it creates in your life just by playing with this idea. So there we go. I'm going to give it to you now. Nothing's wrong with anything. Say it out loud. Nothing's wrong with anything. So I'll explain what I mean. When I say nothing's wrong with anything, the idea that something is wrong means that it needs to be corrected. If I look out into the world and I look at something, say a tree or an object or a person or an event or something that happened, if I look at any aspect of the phenomenal universe anywhere, and I point to it with my finger, and I say that thing is wrong, then what that means is that something needs to be done about it. It means that I need to get off of my center and I need to go and correct it. I need to make it how it's supposed to be, if I'm able to. And if I'm not able to, then it means that I have to exist in the reality with that thing that is wrong, and now I can't even enjoy my own existence anymore. The ego and the mind thinks that we get value from labeling things as wrong because I need to be able to identify if something's wrong so that I know to go and fix it. But you actually don't need that. You don't need the concept of wrongness. This is just something that's wormed its way into our culture and created a sort of a mythos around it in order to keep its place. You can easily look at anything in your life and improve it and make it better and change it, move toward it or move away from it. Make all sorts of conscious choices and decisions that make your life better without calling anything wrong. If you were to just say out loud with your mouth, nothing's wrong with anything, everything is right, everything is as it ought to be, then you can participate in the world as a more conscious human being as opposed to a reactive one.
There's a brilliant piece of wisdom that says the root of all suffering is attachment. And so a question I like to ask myself is the path that I'm on getting me to the place I want to go? It sounds obvious. But sometimes when I look around and I'm like, how did I end up here again? Or this is not the experience I want to be having. It means that I'm on the wrong path. And for me to admit that and then change directions is really tough and challenging. So if I get really attached to the path that I'm on that isn't getting me where I want to go, then it's really worth considering where is it I want to go, and then start carving that new path.
Hey, do you know what the opposite of paranoia is? Most people don't even know it exists, but it's called pronoia, and it can completely change the way that you see the world. Paranoia is the belief that everything and everyone is working against you. It feeds fear, doubt, and negativity. But pronoia? It's the exact opposite. It's the belief that the universe is secretly conspiring for you, that everything, even the challenges, is helping you to succeed, to grow and thrive. Here's an example. Imagine you miss out on a job you really wanted. With paranoia, you believe, I'll never get anywhere. I'm just not good enough to get the job that I wanted. But with pronoia, you'd reframe it and think, maybe this is preparing me for something even better. It's about choosing to see life's setbacks as stepping stones instead of roadblocks. And this isn't just fluffy positivity. It's backed by psychology. Our brains naturally look for evidence to support what we believe. If you believe that life is working for you, you'll start to see opportunities and connections that you never would have seen otherwise. Pronoia trains your mind to see solutions, growth, and gratitude. When you adopt pronoia, you take back your power. You stop reacting to life and start designing it. You see every challenge as an invitation to grow, and every no as a redirection to something even better. You become the architect of your own reality. So, the next time you feel stuck or defeated, ask yourself, what if this is happening for me and not to me? That's the magic of pronoia. Believe the universe is on your side.
How to tell if someone's going to be a problematic person. So there are 3 traits that people can exhibit that will tell you if this person will essentially ruin your life. These are the biggest 3 red flags that I'll teach you to be aware of as a psychologist. So Individuals that have problematic personalities, whether that's narcissistic, borderline, antisocial, typically exhibit 3 traits across the board. And these individuals don't necessarily have to have personality disorders. They can just be very high conflict people. And these types of people will essentially cause conflict, and they will not add to your life, and in worst case scenario, they will ruin your life. So the first thing to look out for is that these types of people will blame others for basically everything. Their lives, their flaws, their anything bad that happens to them, it's someone else's fault. So this overuse of blame is oftentimes a huge red flag in personality. So it's something to look out for. When somebody has a bad day, do they blame like literally everyone all of the time? Red flag. The second thing to look out for is black and white language. And what that means is that, does this person use a lot of extremes in their language? Like, people always take advantage of me, or you're always doing this, or you're always doing that. Black and white language is indicative of a very rigid personality, which again, red flag. The more rigidity someone has in their mind, typically the less mental wellness they have. That's something to remember when you think about somebody else's psychology. And third, the last thing to look out for when you're looking for red flags in somebody's personality is to look for over-personalization. So what that means is that, let's say you're out to dinner with this individual and the waiter pours less in their cup than your cup, and they start to assume that the waiter has some kind of vendetta against them. Or they oftentimes kind of have this like victim mentality, like everyone's out to get them. This type of framework of seeing the world is usually very corrosive. And so on one side of the spectrum, it's that they always play the victim, or on the other side of the spectrum, they just have like this over personalization, like everyone's kind of like out to get them or like thinking about them, when like literally none of us are thinking about each other that much, and most of us know this. And so these 3 things, if you see these 3 things present in a person, these I think are the biggest red flags of problematic personalities or high conflict individuals, and you should definitely proceed with caution.
So there is a such thing as a parallel universe.
There are many, many, many. There are an infinite number. But the idea is that when we're talking about parallel realities, we're not just talking about a sequence of parallel realities. We mean that each and every parallel reality is just literally a frozen moment, a frozen snapshot, similar to a frame on a film strip with no movement, no change, no experience, nothing at all. It's a sequence of those frames, a sequence of parallel realities that creates the illusion of movement and change in a movie, and equally a sensation and a side effect of movement, change, and time in physical reality by your consciousness going through those frames billions of times per second like a projector light, creating the experience of space-time. The actual tick of the clock is what you call the Planck time. That's how fast you are shifting through these parallel realities, billions upon billions upon billions of times per second, because there are billions of Planck time units per second. Make sense?
A lot of sense.
All right. You cannot perceive what you are not the vibration of. Things are invisible to you when you're not in the proper vibratory state. But when you are the person you prefer to be, things that used to look one way to another you will look differently to the new one. So the you that says, well, that's going to be difficult, it's going to be unpleasant, that's the old you talking. Right. It's not the new you talking. Right. So when you truly choose to be the new you, you will see things in a different way. And you will experience things in a different way. You have sayings on your planet, don't you?
Yes.
One man's meat is another man's poison.
Yes.
Well, where do you think these ideas come from? The state of being utterly determines how you actually experience your reality. It has nothing to do with the thing itself. A detox is neutral. It's just a thing. It's just a circumstance. And what do we say about circumstance?
They don't matter.
They don't. Only the state of being matters. And that's what will determine how you experience the circumstance. Positive meaning in, positive effect out. Negative meaning in, negative effect out. Law of attraction. Third law of creation. What you put out is what you get back. Detox, label it positive, label it negative. The very same thing can go both ways. It can be the worst experience of your life. It can be the best experience of your life. It depends on where you are coming from.
So check this. If you can understand it, it's going to change your life completely. Your mind is like a garden. And just like in a garden, you can't plant strawberry seeds and expect that tomatoes are going to grow, right? Well, the same is true for your mind. You cannot be negative and talk down to yourself and be shitty to yourself and surround yourself with negative people and just expect that you're magically going to have this positive life. Because just as in the garden, your input is going to equal your output. If you want a positive life, you have to change the way that you speak to yourself. You have to change your thoughts. You have to change the people that you surround yourself with. You have to surround yourself with people who are supportive of you, because people aren't just born positive. That's a huge misconception. People who are positive are very intentional. They work at it daily. So remember, if you want an amazing life, all of this stuff starts up here first.
The idea of one of the strongest mantras for humans on earth, one of the strongest tools, is as you wake up in the morning and as you go to sleep at night, to say, perhaps at least 3 times, I am who I am, and that is enough. I am who I am, and that is enough. I am who I am, and that is enough. And then see what synchronicity brings you with the willingness to let go of all restrictions, all limitations, all assumptions and all insistences that in your unconscious, subconscious, and conscious mind don't actually serve you or don't align with the vibration of your true ethereal spiritual core. Then reality will unfold as it needs to serve you best.
The universe will put you in the same situations over and over again until you learn. Until you learn to react differently, until you learn to think differently, until you learn that enough is enough. Remember this. Old habits do not open new doors. You must eliminate in order to evolve.
For those on Earth that are having trouble with memory,
forget about it. And you won't have any trouble.
Is this something that we are going to learn how to do?
I'm not being facetious.
What, about forgetting about?
Forget about having trouble with memory, and you'll know what you need to know when you need to know it.
Right, because I think a lot of humans get very anxious when their memory is not working as well as they would like.
That's simply because of what they've been taught to think about their relationship to the idea of knowledge.
Right, and I think you've mentioned previously that I remember that you mentioned that one of the reasons that that's happening is because people are learning how to shift to knowing what they need to know when they need to know it in the moment.
Yes.
And as part of that shift, you might experience what you would consider a lack of memory.
Remember that memory is an illusion anyway. You're still creating memory in the present. So let go of the old definitions of memory as if it is actually remembering the past. No such thing.
Right, because you are actually generating an idea of the past from the present.
Exactly. Therefore, you're creating the memory anyway in the present. So just relax the need to remember specific things from the past, and you will start to realize that you will know what you need to know in the moment when you need it.
The thorn in Paul's flesh was not sin. It wasn't a sickness either. It was a heckler
which is pretty clear in the narrative. I'll show it to you. Okay, so he mentions this in 2 Corinthians. And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan, to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. Now, right off the bat, it's important to establish that he's not concerned for himself. He's concerned about others. He doesn't want to be exalted in the minds of other people because he's just Paul. Yes, he's an apostle. Yes, he's doing all these things for the Lord, but he's humble. He's a Christian, sin-free, holy, and righteous. And he doesn't want anybody worshiping him. Just like all those times when the apostles were going out and people were trying to worship them and they're saying, hey, wait, we're just men like you. Don't worship us, worship Jesus. So that's the first big thing we need to understand. And the next verse says, for this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. So now logically play this out in your head. Do you think if Paul was going to the Lord to be delivered from a sin, Jesus would say no? Obviously not. He shed his blood to take away our sins. But a lot of people also think this was a sickness. Do you really think the same Jesus that healed them all would not heal Paul for some weird reason? He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. As the Bible says, who his own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree, that we, being dead to sins, should live unto righteousness, by whose stripes ye were healed. So now, first of all, we're not dead to sins if we're still a sinner. Let me say that. And also, we're not living unto righteousness if we're still a sinner. But it also says, by whose stripes ye were healed, which is a reference to Isaiah 53. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. So it's really important to show that this is mainly talking about us being healed from sin, becoming a new creation. But it's also talking about literal healing. He healed them all the entire time he was walking in Galilee. And the whole multitude sought to touch him, for there went virtue out of him, and healed them all. Not some of them, not a few of them, all. But when Jesus knew it, he withdrew himself from thence, and great multitudes followed him, and he healed them all. Not a select few, all. Now when the sun was setting, all they that had any sick with diverse diseases brought them unto him. And he laid his hands on every one of them, and healed them. Every one of them, all. And his fame went throughout all Syria, and they brought unto him all sick people that were taken with diverse diseases and torments, and those which were possessed with devils, and those which were lunatic, and those that had the palsy, and he healed them, all sick people. So getting back to Paul, it doesn't make any sense if Paul was going to him with some sickness or disease he had, that Jesus would all of a sudden change his mind, change his tune, and say, yeah, no, I'm not going to heal you, Paul. Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. If we go to him for healing today, we can expect to be healed. So again, we get back to the first verse, the messenger of Satan to buffet me. That's your clue. It's a messenger of Satan. What does Paul say in 2 Timothy? And their word will eat as doth a canker, of whom is Hymenaeus and Philetus, who concerning the truth have erred, saying that the resurrection is past already, and overthrow the faith of some. In 1 Timothy he says, holding faith and a good conscience, which some having put away concerning faith have made shipwreck, of whom is Hymenaeus and Alexander, whom I have delivered unto Satan, that they may learn not to blaspheme. And again in 2 Timothy, Alexander the coppersmith did me much evil. The Lord reward him according to his works. Of whom be thou ware also, for he hath greatly withstood our words. So these guys, Hymenaeus and Alexander, appear multiple times. These are the messengers of Satan to buffet him. These are hecklers that were going from town to town, denying the gospel that Paul was preaching, and making fun of him and making it out that he was a servant of Satan. And I can attest I have the same thing going on. Anybody who's ever gone on my lives will see the thorns in my flesh, these messengers of Satan to buffet me, lest I be exalted above measure. Which is great, because I don't want anybody worshiping me, just like Paul didn't want anybody worshiping him. We're pointing to Christ. We're saying, hey, he's your Messiah. We're saints. We're telling you the truth, but we're nothing. We're just dust. So yeah, stop listening to denominational liars that will take every single situation in the New Testament and twist it to fit their eisegesis that Christians still sin. Because that's a lie from the pit of hell. Christians do not sin and Christians cannot sin, as the text proves. Liars love taking everything out of context. And let me tell you, from my own experience, it is the most rewarding thing to serve the Lord and to gather hecklers. It means you're doing something right. It means you're above the target. So all of you saints watching, get out there and get hated for the truth's sake. It's the best. And all of you sinners that are watching, get born again and go and sin no more.